Welcome everyone to this session. Hope you had a good weekend. And yeah, let's just do a little check-in to start with, shall we? In fact, let's do a bit of breathing to just start. We'll just do like 10 breaths to kind of just settle into this. So just closing your eyes, making yourself comfortable, and start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. Notice how the stomach rises, the chest rises, subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just pause briefly, scan your mind, noticing any thoughts and emotions going on there. And whatever's happening, you can just let it go. You can just drop it. So exhale out through your mouth, and just letting those thoughts go, imagine blowing them away. Like clouds just drifting away. They have no power to obscure true awareness, which is the blue sky, the light that shines through it. And so just take a few breaths in and out through your nose. Just focusing all the attention on the breath. Letting go of any thoughts as you do that. Just to clear some space. And focusing all attention on the breath is to create some space, some openness, some light for truth to come in. And the idea of being an empty vessel. An empty vessel can receive. And just observe the subtle sensations of the breath to bring your mind into the present moment. So, notice how the stomach rises and the chest rises, subtle flow of air into the nostrils. Pause briefly and just let the process reverse. The breath flows out. Notice the subtle sensation in your nose as it happens. In the area just below your nose, between your nose and upper lip. So observe that. And let that bring you into calm, empty, spacious awareness, light awareness, just pure formless awareness. There's nothing really to think about. It just is. And you should notice that it's very peaceful. Very peaceful, very calming, relaxing. It feels very comfortable. So you're just going to invite this presence, which we can call the Holy Spirit, for want of a better word, to the mind to guide you through this session. The topic of today is going to be how you step back and let this presence, this spirit, the Holy Spirit of love guide you in life. So in order to learn that, you would need to learn it from the Holy Spirit itself. So just open your mind to that guidance to receive whatever you need to receive. See them and stay connected to your breath. So as we go, try and keep some awareness on the breath, just to keep in touch with this nice, calm, peaceful, relaxed, spacious awareness. So when it's said and so it's done. And a few more deep breaths, just give you silence to really root yourself into this nice, peaceful, calm state. And then come back, refreshed and calm and ready to receive fully whatever is going to unfold for you tonight. Just observing the breath. Notice how the breath just breathes you. And what's to do, what's to go. Allow the breath to breathe you and be still. And so when you're ready, just gently going to back into awareness of the body and the senses. And you can open your eyes, but maintain this nice, deep, slow, rhythmical pattern of breathing. Continue with talking and engaging with one another. So when you're ready, open your eyes. Now just take a moment to observe your state. So if you're feeling just very nice and calm and peaceful, just settles everything into a nice, peaceful state. And sets us up for a good session, hopefully. So, would anyone like to share anything? Kim? Haven't heard from you for a week, so anything happening for you?
Yeah, I mean, just overall, it was a good week. I came back home to Johannesburg yesterday evening.
Okay.
So it's been good to connect with some people in Cape Town, and Leland joined as well for a few days, and it was good. So it's just, it was just a bit busy. I wasn't able to join the sessions. But I think I was struggling a bit to keep up with the course work as I would like. And then I think just for today, I'm really interested, well, with this lesson about kind of stepping aside and listening to the Spirit. Looking forward just for us to engage on that. And I just sometimes the breath breaks help. Sometimes I just don't get to do it. So my mornings were a little bit hectic for me to actually get into the lesson properly, especially doing it if it was a very long meditation. So I think again I notice how some things are coming up for me which are a little bit more overwhelming, and so it's overall good, a bit of a mixed bag in some places, and but I think the anxiety is it's not like something that's sort of a new kind of anxiety. It makes sense. But it's just sometimes some things are overwhelming, and some things are kind of long-standing things that are challenge. It takes time.
It does, but you're practicing, so that's good. Yeah. As long as you stay practicing and stay connected as much as you can. When the danger is when you just stop your spiritual practice entirely. That's never a good idea. I got too busy, and then a week becomes two, and a month, and suddenly it's like, and you then you start to notice the ego comes back in a big way. Because the spiritual practice is what kind of, it's undoing, and it also keeps it at bay. So you're back in Joburg in a familiar environment. So.
For another 3 days, and then I'm off again to Cape St. Francis for 4 days. So it's quite a bit of travel.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this is that kind of time of the year, and everyone's starting to go or prepare at least for holidays. But just take it with you wherever you go. Try and do the meditations. It's all on your phone or computer. So. Okay. Anything else to share?
I think that's it for now. Let's see how we go into the lesson.
Sure. Yeah. Sue and John. Any thoughts? Anything arising?
I've been noticing Christmas is coming, and I usually go through dread over Christmas. Brings up all sorts of stuff for me, and it started up again. I can feel it coming, and so I'm kind of just inquiring about that a little bit, and seeing it differently, and I'll see where that takes me.
Okay, that's good. So it's related to the past, presumably, past experiences.
Yeah.
On Christmas and family and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's actually quite common. Christmas is a time when a lot of people struggle because everyone seems to be happy.
Yeah.
And celebrating, and then you're not. In fact, quite the opposite. A lot of people get quite depressed.
Yeah.
At Christmas. So. Hey, well, closer to Christmas, there's a lovely passage in chapter 15. The text, we'll read it. But on the true meaning of Christmas. But just trying to remember that Christmas is really just a symbol of the birth of Christ in your own mind.
Yes.
The one self. It's the one self. And so if you keep coming back to that awareness, I'm still the one self. And nothing that's happened in the past really matters at all.
Yeah.
That shadow, that dread is all past that stuff. Which of course is designed by the ego to obscure the present, which is, the greatest gift you have. Actually, the only thing about Christmas really is to celebrate the coming of that formless awareness we call Christ, the presence of your true self into your mind. It's been completely hijacked by the ego, and materialism reigns, unfortunately, around Christmas. But still, there is a spirit. There is a spirit of togetherness and connection. So I think if you can just focus on that and find that in your mind, maybe find this Christmas is a bit different. And do inquiry on it. As these things come up, you can look at them and go, okay, but I'm seeing what that is, and that can't be of the spirit, that's of the ego, and so it's not true, and so and let it go. It's not a true belief. And obviously, you can keep doing these sessions, so if it's coming up, we can maybe help you to shift it.
Yeah.
Anything else to share?
I think I'm just becoming a bit more. I'm becoming increasingly aware of. I have noticed actually the last few days how much time I spend either in the past or the future. So I am trying to just pick up on that and just bring myself into the present more.
Yeah, very good.
Which is, yeah. I'd be interested if I could actually clock how much time I spend in the present and monitor it all the time.
But then you would be going out of the present.
Yeah, quite.
It's just an ongoing practice of vigilance. I notice I'm thinking about the past now, okay?
Yeah.
I noticed it. The moment I notice, obviously there's a correction.
Yeah.
That's happening in the noticing, because there's another awareness coming in. And so then you go, okay, well, I don't need to think about that. Let me just be totally present.
I noticed actually that also that when I am thinking in the past, there's a certain uncomfortableness comes with it. It's like, it's just, like I shouldn't be doing it, but it's a very quiet voice. It says, oh, you are in the past, John. You don't really want to be there. Feels a bit, just beginning to feel just slightly uncomfortable, which I've not actually noticed prior to recent time.
Well, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
It says somewhere in the course, discomfort is only produced to help you with correction of your mind. So the Holy Spirit produces discomfort to make you aware that you're now in the ego's thought system, and this isn't really serving you. There has to be some kind of, okay, this isn't right, which leads to a feeling of discomfort.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's more of a this isn't quite right, Yeah, it might be interesting, might be intriguing, but it's not quite right,
Yeah, well, it's good that awareness is arising. It means you are coming more into under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, because its guidance is always just be present. There is no other time. And the discomfort is just that you're noticing it. You're out of alignment, you're not in the present, and you notice it. And that discomfort is necessary in order to correct it. So, okay, well, it's fine. It doesn't have to be a drama. I can let that go.
No, it's not.
I don't have to entertain these thoughts.
Yeah.
And I can just let them go and bring my mind back into just being present, which may mean you're not really thinking very much a lot of the time.
Yeah, which is in itself an intriguing thought, actually. Because
Yeah.
I kind of find it difficult not to think that I won't be thinking.
Yeah, well, we're addicted to thinking.
Yeah,
So our thinking minds are like, well, who would I be unless I thought? I think, therefore I am. It's Rene Descartes' philosophy, which isn't true. I am, therefore I think would have been more true. I am, therefore I can think. But if I am, I don't need to think in order to exist.
yeah,
I just am as I am. Pure formless awareness doesn't need to think in terms of what we define as thought. Subject, object, thought. Oh, I, John, am now thinking about some other person, place, event, circumstance. Because that's all that thought is in the matrix, isn't it?
yeah,
The illusion.
yeah, yeah,
Because you're thinking about subject, object.
yeah,
And again, advancement on the spiritual path. I think Ramana Maharshi, he was asked that question, well, how do I know if I'm making progress? He said it's the degree of absence of thought that tells you whether you're
yeah,
making progress on the spiritual path or not.
yeah, yeah,
So can you just not be thinking consciously? There's awareness,
yeah,
but not thought as we would define it.
yeah,
Awareness just sits there and it's pure, it's formless, it's happy, it's peaceful, and you just rest in that awareness. And then thought comes in, and thought clouds that awareness over generally. Because now we're not resting in the peace of our being, we're thinking about usually subject, object, dualistic things. I think about this, I'm thinking about, what do we think about? People, bodies, we think about places, we think about circumstances, events, we think about the past, we think about the future. And if none of those truly exist, then what you're thinking about is all illusion.
yeah, yeah. Completely loose.
So these thoughts do not mean anything. Going back to lesson number 4, remind yourself, saying, look, none of your thoughts that you think really mean anything, because they're all about what's unreal.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, yesterday, just on the spur of the moment, we went over to the coast, and I thought, oh, I'll just do, because I haven't played golf for ages. Oh, I'll just go and play 9 holes on my own, and I did, and I just totally enjoyed it. It was just me, and I just kind of, I thought, I just thought about how much I enjoy this game. And then I thought about this offer of this going to Spain in February with these other guys. I thought, why am I holding back from that? And I kind of saw that differently. And I thought, well, I could go and just be me. I don't have to enter this kind of macho bravado game. I could be more myself. So I changed my mind about that, and I said to the others, "Okay, I'm up for it."
Okay. That'll be an interesting experience.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be with people who presumably not Course in Miracles students.
Correct.
Yeah. So playing golf and obviously the temptation is maybe to get sucked into whatever thought patterns that they indulge in.
Yeah.
I know it goes on these, the banter and the drinking and etc. So do it differently. You walk with God.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you couldn't be in the same state of flow. It sounds like you were in a state of flow on the golf course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why couldn't you always be there?
Yeah.
because it's an internal state.
Mm.
I think one of the reasons we invented these pastimes, whatever it might be, golf, any kind of sport, was because it actually stops the mind.
Mm.
It takes you out of the normal pattern of, oh, you know, I'm doing this and I've got responsibilities and obligations and work and family commitments. And it's like, right, you're going to go out. And golf's a great one because you go for a nice walk.
Mm.
I think Mark Twain actually said, you know, golf is a good walk ruined.
Yeah.
It's a take on the game. But anyway, it gives you an excuse to go and, you know, have a walk and a little hit around and a chat for hours. You know, it's like 5 hours of sort of meditation. And I think that's why these games are popular. Obviously, you can then, the ego can come in and hijack it, and you can get all tense about it. You can get frustrated.
Yeah.
You know, if you get outcome oriented, oh, you know, I'm not playing that well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think we invented these games to start with because there's a sense of a release. You go into a different state of mind.
Yeah.
And it's fun, and you feel kind of uplifted having played the game. Of course, then the ego comes in, tries to hijack and go, no, we can't do too much of that. We've got to have some stress around the game as well. So now it creates stress around, you know, how you're performing and outcome and scores, and advanced the idea of scoring. Because when these games were invented, there was no scoring. They would have just been in, you know, and then, oh, no, we've got to have rules, we've got to have scoring, and there's got to be a winner and a loser. And so now the whole thing comes into the ego's domain. But still, the essence is there. In any sport, you can find that essence of flow and really releasing and letting go of everything. And it becomes a moving meditation. And that really is the absolute essence of sport. That's the pure spiritual essence that underlies it. The scoring and the outcomes and the winning and all of that has been subsequently added by the ego. So, you know, you always have that choice in any sport. I mean, in life, but in sport you see it particularly because it's like, am I going to be focused on the outcome here, or am I going to be focused on the process?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a difference.
It is absolutely a dichotomy. You can't be both. It's one or the other.
It is. And I do find as soon as that thought comes in, you know, how am I doing? How am I scoring? Am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? It spoils the shot, you know. Whereas just being relaxed about it happens.
Yeah. Paradoxically, you get a better outcome when you're not attached to the outcome.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Mm.
It's just remembering that. And any great sportsman will tell you that. No one performs well under pressure. The great sportsmen are the ones who don't allow themselves to feel the pressure, because pressure is created by outcome orientation. Oh, I need to get a result. That's all in the mind. We create that ourselves. So it's just being able to manage your mind, go into a space where you're just in the moment. Okay, I'm in the zone. I'm in the moment. I'm just moment by moment, and I'm responding in the moment. There's no future. I'm not in past, future. I'm totally present. And so, because, you know, especially if you're performing at a high level, you almost have to be. To perform at that level, you have to be. It is a great meditation practice. It brings you into the now. You have to be in the now. You can't do it otherwise. Imagine, you know, Roger Federer or something, like playing at that level of Wimbledon, and like, no, he's worried about, you know, is he going to win the tournament? Is it all going to work? What happens if he loses? What are the press going to say? It's a mess. It's not going to work, is it? He's going to be all over the place. So, you know, these guys have just mastered have mastered their mind, really. I think they get paid so much because they have a skill. They have a mind skill which allows them to come into the present, even under that supposed pressure. Everyone's watching them, and there's all this, you know, are you going to win or lose? They're able to just zone in and go, no, I just block all that out and I'm in the moment and I just play. And we like watching that.
Yeah.
We're like, wow, that's pretty amazing when people can do that. You can see the results of it, obviously, instantly in their performance. You know, if someone's in the zone, you see it. And then the fascinating thing is you see they go out of the zone, and you see that too.
Yeah.
You can see it shift. You know, it can just be a guy like he has one bad point, and then you can just see like something's happening and he's not quite there. And then he has a few bad points, and you can see it's like slipped out of his zone. And then it's like, well, can he get it back, or you know, is he gonna just degenerate and lose? So it's a mind game. It's fascinating to watch from that perspective.
Mm.
So I look forward to hearing about the trip when it comes. I don't suppose you'll be joining any live sessions, but it's fine. Just
Well, that'd be interesting if I did. Or when I, yeah.
Well, you walk with God in perfect holiness, so just let the Spirit lead the way. And who knows, maybe some of the golfers might have a few other ideas.
Yeah.
The golfing fan, they're like, okay, that was interesting. I learned something from John that I didn't know. Because people do, you know, they pick up an energy. Especially if you play well. I mean, that's almost the best way to convince them.
Yeah, it is.
They're like totally in flow, happy, playing well. They're like, wow, like actually, it's pretty, yeah, John, you know, you're playing really well, and it just seems like you're so happy. What's your secret?
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's the opener, and then you could talk to them about it.
Yeah.
Talk about flow, and you don't have to talk about the Holy Spirit, just talk about being in flow.
Mm.
And finding that kind of nice calm presence while you're acting. Okay. Anything to share, Sue?
I can just share something that happened this afternoon.
Yeah.
So we were at this concert. It was a quartet playing, and it was playing chamber music. And suddenly I had this intense feeling of sadness that I imagine my dad felt when my mum died. And it was just really intense. And I never really thought about it before, how sad he must have felt.
Mm.
So it was nice. It was nice to feel it. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Mm.
And then it went after a bit.
And then it went, yeah. But I feel as though I could bring it back.
Mm.
It was just a particularly, it was music in a minor key, and it had this quality of melancholy, I suppose, about it.
Mm.
Yeah. But I'm grateful to have had that. You know, I'm pleased that I felt it.
Mm. Interesting. That maybe makes you appreciate what he went through a bit more, and also appreciate happiness.
Mm.
That you don't have to feel like that most of the time. I do say in dealing with grief, a good idea is to actually experience it fully for a while. Like, don't deny it. Don't just go like, you know, on the same day, okay, well, that's the thing. No, I'm just going to let this go. Like, take a bit of, like, not necessarily weeks or months, but take some time just to feel it and process it. Because then it's like, okay, I'm acknowledging it, it's come up, I'm processing it, and then I can release it. And I've kind of moved through it rather than suppressed it.
Mm.
And that process, well, it's going to take different times for everyone. I mean, that is not to spend months, but, you know, maybe a few days. Depending on, you know, how it's affected you, and depending on how close the person was to you. It's interesting. Maybe you just picked up a little bit of his energy there.
Yeah, I think so.
It just was a stimulus for that.
Mm.
You'd been and visited, hadn't you? So we talked about it. So
Yeah, yeah.
maybe he was just there with you. Okay, well, this is how I felt. It's like an energy,
Mm.
energetic. And it could have been like that was a piece of music he'd listened to. You don't know.
He enjoyed music. Yeah,
Hmm.
feel as though he was kind of channeling it to me in a way.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
We're connecting to each other, him somehow, Sue.
Yeah,
Mm.
But we're all still connected on a mind level. And they haven't, like the dead are not really dead. They're just not physical. So
because
the
and I was
mind
with
is still, still there.
my dad when my mum died, Kim, and he didn't share his feelings at all. I don't think I did either. We were both in shock, really.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I've never really thought about or never felt how it was.
Mm.
Yeah, it was really good to feel that.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just, they do say, you need to feel grief and just move through it. Maybe this was okay, well, just do that.
Mm.
Move through it and you felt it. And maybe then you can just move past it entirely and just, let the whole thing go. Interesting. Anything else to share?
No. I like Kim, I enjoyed the lesson this morning. Enjoyed reading it. So looking forward to going through it.
Mm.
Okay, well, let's jump into that, shall we? Now when you can see the screen. Okay, so just a reminder, like while we're reading this, just like watch your breath, stay very present, and just let the words sort of come into that nice, open, empty, spacious awareness. The breath helps you create, and see how that works. See if it changes your experience of the lesson in any way. Okay, who would like to read paragraph 1?
Okay, I'll start.
Okay.
I will step back and let him lead the way. There is a way of living in the world that is not here, although it seems to be. You do not change appearance, though you smile more frequently. Your forehead is serene, your eyes are quiet, and the ones who walk the world as you do recognize their own. Yet those who have not yet perceived the way will recognize you also and believe that you are like them as you were before.
Okay, anything stand up for you?
Yeah, it's like number 4, number 5, how maybe those who are, if we're talking about stepping away and let him lead away, like I'm thinking, if you let in the spirit and he leads the way, others who are doing something similar, maybe in flow, can recognize that in you. However, you're still in your body, number 5. So those who can't recognize and see it because they don't experience it themselves, they'll also recognize you, believe you like them as you were before. I think that's what it's saying.
Mm.
Although I would have thought people note, I don't know if whether they're in spirit or not, I would think they do notice something different.
Mm.
So
Yeah, maybe they do on some level, but if they're not really on this path, then I think he's saying, well, they'll still think that you're the same as you were, largely. It might be something that arises in their mind, but they're not really open to spiritual path, then they might just ignore it, or they won't understand it, they'll dismiss it, and they'll still see you as you were. So often this happens with family, for instance. You're changing and shifting, but they still see you as Kim or Jono, and nothing's really changed, but you have actually changed. But they still see you as you were before. I think that's sort of the point he's making.
mm.
And that's okay, because it's their perception of you. You're shifting and changing, and they don't see that. It's because they're not open themselves. The ones who walk the world as you do recognize their own. So you do start to feel a resonance with people who also want a spiritual path and walking on the same path. And you start to recognize people who are on the same path.
Mm.
And so it's saying there's nothing like supernatural or otherworldly. You do not change appearance, and you smile a bit more often. He's trying to give us some practical guidance on how to actually live in this world, which is why this is a good lesson. Okay, should we move on to number 2?
The world is an illusion. Those who choose to come to it are seeking for a place where they can be illusions and avoid their own reality. Yet when they find their own reality is even here, then they step back and let it lead the way. What other choice is really theirs to make? To let illusions walk ahead of truth is madness, but to let illusion sink behind the truth and let the truth stand forth as what it is merely sanity.
Okay, I'll give us a quick summary of that.
So those who, I don't know if I can actually.
Of course you can.
I don't get number 3 where it says, when they find their own reality is even here, then they step back and let it lead the way.
Okay. I'm not sure what he means.
Yeah, so, well, I'll have a go. So we choose to come here to this world of illusion. Yeah. When we find our own reality. Oh, I see. So those who choose to come to it, I'll see. And avoid their reality. Okay, so when we come to find our own reality here, then we'll step back and let that lead the way to truth.
We find that our reality, our true self, isn't even here.
Right.
Because our self is everywhere. It can't not be here. Even in the mad dream, in the world of illusion, the truth is still true, and the truth is still here.
Mm.
And then they step back and let it lead the way. And this is what other choices really there is to make. So you do get to a point where you're like, well, what other choice? There's no other way. If I know who I really am, and how can I not let that lead me and guide me in this life? That illusion to walk ahead of truth is madness. It's quite a nice image. You think of you walking in this mad illusion, walking ahead, like going, I know where I'm going, and actually has no clue where it's going. It's like someone leading you, saying, I don't know if you've ever been on a walk. No, I know where I'm going.
Yes.
So certain and so confident, and then like, no, actually you don't know where you're going. That's all. It was all bravado, and now we lost. So that's sort of the image he's trying to conjure up. Whereas, to somebody say, well, look, you don't know what you're doing, really. Ego's clueless, so you need to step back. I need to put you back in your box. Ideally, let it all go, but to start diminishing its importance and saying, okay, so I'm open to being guided here. I don't know the way, but I'm open to guidance that's going to show me. And that openness, that willingness, talked about the little willingness recently in one of the text sections. That willingness then opens you to listen to another voice that says, okay, do that, go there. So a lot of people are like, but how could the Holy Spirit do that? Because this is, truth and illusion don't reconcile, but this is its function. It's the awareness of perfect oneness that it can reinterpret that in the dream, and it can be very helpful in giving you practical guidance as to where to go, what to do, who to speak to, and so on. These things in the dream, in every situation. But it is a conscious choice to step back and say, okay, the little I, am stepping back with all of my fears and desires and expectations and belief in sin and guilt. I'm stepping back. That's not going to be leading me anymore. If I notice those thoughts, then I'm aware of them, and I just I'm letting them go as much as I can, and saying, no, I'm not listening to that voice. Okay, Spirit, guide me, show me what to do here, and then just trust and wait for the answer, which might not come straight away, but it will come if you really open yourself. So again, it comes down to forgiveness. It comes down to that willingness to let go of this mad thought system and say, okay, I see it, it might be arising, but I'm willing to let it go. I don't want to entertain that. That doesn't feel right. As you said, John, it's not right. So I'm willing to let it go, to not dwell on it, to step back and then allow another presence to come in. So in that empty space, the key thing behind this, letting Spirit lead the way, is creating space in your mind. for that to come in. You don't actually have to create it. You just go, right, now I want guidance. I'm going to download the guidance. Give me guidance. It's not that. It's much more surrender. It's saying, no, let me just open myself. Let me clear the space. So if I can let go of my unhelpful thoughts and emotions, that's what he means by stepping back. I clear the space, and when I have that nice, calm, open, empty, spacious awareness, then the spirit is likely to come in and give me often very specific guidance. Very specific guidance.
Carry on.
Yeah, we can carry on.
This is the simple choice we make today. The mad illusion will remain a while in evidence for those to look upon who choose to come, and have not yet rejoiced to find they were mistaken in their choice. They cannot learn directly from the truth because they have denied that it is so. And so they need a teacher who perceives their madness, but who still can look beyond illusion to the simple truth in them.
Okay. So any thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's saying that those who are lost in the ego obviously need a teacher, because they can't see their own madness, and they need a teacher who does see that. And can still see the simple truth in them. I think it's a lesson about seeing the truth in everyone, really.
So you'll still see it with the body's eyes and the senses, but because you're opening. So the key thing about the stepping back is just to let go of your own thoughts and emotions. And in that open space, this teacher comes in. The teacher is obviously the Holy Spirit. Remember, it's just an awareness of oneness comes in and can now look beyond illusion in the situation to the simple truth, because it knows that actually only oneness is true. And so it can reinterpret that situation from that perspective. Okay, so any comments or questions on that?
No, I think that's okay.
Okay, number 4. So if truth demanded they give up the world, it would appear to them as if it asked the sacrifice of something that is real. Many have chosen to renounce the world while still believing its reality. And they have suffered from a sense of loss and not been released accordingly. Others have chosen nothing but the world, and they have suffered from a sense of loss still deeper, which they did not understand. Okay, you want to summarize that? Kim, why don't you have a go?
So those who might have, encountered that, if they choose truth, it means that they give up the world and they see it as a sacrifice. basically because they still believe that world is real. But if they are still if they're renouncing it and they still believe it's real, then it feels like they're losing something. Like there's an attachment there still, and they're losing something. And they haven't actually let go because they sense that loss. So I feel like I'm going around, but there's like, because they still perceive it's real, and they think they've renounced it, it's not actually let go because they feel that there's a sense of loss, which is reinforcing that it's real.
Yeah. If you didn't think it's real, there could be no sense of loss.
Yeah. And then others which have chosen nothing but the world, from the way I see that, as more of an unawareness that there's something else. The sense of loss is deeper because they don't understand, because they're not, like, they don't know what's different, but maybe there is a sense of loss, but they don't know what that is. That's how I understand this.
Yeah, that's just kind of a nameless sense of loss, anxiety, depression, that people, if they only choose the world, and then they're just pure materialists, that's what he's talking about here, then they will feel these emotions, but they won't really understand them. And they'll try and cover them over quickly and so on. Just forget about that. Do something else, distract yourself. Because they don't really understand that they've lost their self. They've lost their true self. They've lost love, and that's a deep loss. And it's going to haunt them as long as they believe in the false self. It's inevitable that you're going to feel sad and lonely and depressed because you're believing in a false self, but you don't even understand it.
Or maybe they don't know it. There's such a thing.
Yeah, well, they've denied it so completely that they're in the illusion that this world is real, that only this world is real, and they don't want to entertain anything else. Everyone has, everyone on this planet has been exposed at some point to an idea that there's something else, that there's a spiritual world. It's in every tradition, it's in every culture. But there are people who then just choose not to honor that, not to listen to that at all. And I'll just choose the world. And then the loss is still deeper, but they don't understand it. Because they've totally denied their true self, and they feel that on a subconscious level. And I see it in my family. My father totally lost, totally chosen the world. It's the scientific materialist paradigm, and he's sad. And there's nothing anyone can do to fix that until he changes his mind. Because if you believe in the world, then it's all very sad. He's now in his 80s. It's all coming to an end. The dream is gonna end soon, and everything that he had in his life is now fading away. And if you only believe in the world, loss is guaranteed. And so there's a sense of loss. You can see a deep sense of loss, but he doesn't even understand that, because he's just chosen the world and he's denied anything else. And there's no way anyone can help him until he's willing to really look at his beliefs and change his mind, which is probably not going to do because he's 85. His mind is very fixed that he's right and this is the way, and even though it's not making him happy. I see it. I've seen it in people in my family, that there's this sense of loss. And the ego is it's not a happy thought system, especially as you get older, because everything's just decaying. You're getting old, the body's dying, everything you valued is fading away. Ultimately, it's going to be undone. So, he's writing a book, he's writing his memoirs. And you can see what his ego is trying to do. He's trying to make it all real and leave some kind of legacy. Oh, this is my life and it was important, and so I'll write about it. And the book will be published. Which is an attempt to sort of hold on to some of it. But you can't really. Truth be told, once he's gone, no one's going to read the book. Maybe a few people, but it's over. The dream, you can't hold on to it. But this is what the ego tries to do when it's denied the truth, and it tries to find some kind of meaning in its illusion. Okay. So
To me.
your turn, Kim.
Okay. Between his paths, there is another road that leads away from loss of every kind. For sacrifice and deprivation both are quickly left behind. I'm reading a poem. This is the way appointed for you now. You walk this path as others walk, nor do you seem to be distinct from them, although you are indeed. Thus, can you serve them while you serve yourself, and set their footsteps on the way that something is open, or God has opened up to you, and let them through you, and them through you.
Okay, anything stand out for you there?
So the road that you, okay, so there's a road that's between the paths that you might have been on before, as well as others. It don't seem to be distinct from them. I think the people, that are on the other, I don't understand that. Sorry. Number 3, you walk this path as others walk, nor do you seem to be distinct from them, although you are indeed. So I'm guessing if you're distinct from others, is that the ones that are in the same direction as you, or the ones that are not on the same path, meaning in the illusion? So at least before saying this, you can serve them while you serve yourself, and set their footsteps on the way that God has opened up to you, and them through you. It's almost like, if I read that, then for me, it's describing you're not on the same path as the others, but you don't see, but to them you don't seem distinct. So but you can kind of help them along and set them on the path that you are on. Footsteps on the way to God. I'm not sure if I'm really understanding this or describing it well, but
yeah,
it's like you've shifted. Something is maybe parallel, but the others are seeing that you're still there. And because of that, you can help them get onto the path to God.
Yeah, this is referring to people who, others walk, because everyone, whether they're conscious of it or not, is on a path to God. So you walk this path as others walk. We're all walking on this path. And he's saying, you don't seem to be distinct from them, although you are indeed, because you've made a different choice. Your mind is now guided by the Holy Spirit. You have a goal which is not of this world. Thus can you serve them while you serve yourself. Set their footsteps on the way that God has opened up to you, and then through you. So he's calling you to a teaching function here. To teach people who are not necessarily on this way, the way back to God, and the way that God has opened up to you, and to show them through you, through your example, that there's another way of living. and that they also can walk this path. Does that clarify it?
Yeah, and practically when it's an example is how you're doing it, and maybe like in the earlier part of the lesson when you're talking about or the earlier part of the session today around people noticing, maybe it's noticing something different about you.
Mm.
You might be more calm, like we can talk about with John and playing a golf game and relaxing and being flow, and it's going well. Your golfing mates, John, would notice that, I guess.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
the best way to teach them is by example on the golf course.
Mm.
So that's then becomes how the Holy Spirit will use that situation for everyone's highest good, including your own. So you're teaching yourself, and you're also teaching others.
Mm.
So now you have an inspired purpose. You're not just going to play golf to win on the level of form, or just to have a good time, or whatever. Actually, there's another purpose that comes into the whole thing. You walk with God. You play golf for God. That's an interesting thought. And then that can be used by the Holy Spirit to communicate something else to people who will still see you as you were. You're going, with your mates to play golf. Like, John, but now how you carry yourself in that situation is going to be different. So if they see that, they will, especially if it comes onto the golf course, they will go, wow, okay, so that's interesting. Definitely something a little bit different there. And then that might be a topic of conversation. You don't know. Just do it like if you step back and let the Holy Spirit just guide the whole thing, then you don't have to worry, and you don't have to get into that horrible paralysis state that you did a couple of months ago, where you were like, I think I should do something, but I don't really know what to do, and I know I do nothing, and I'm feeling blocked and stuck, and that was just, you wanted to do something, but I think you had the desire, which was a spiritual desire, but then you were trying to use the ego to help you do it, and of course that created a big conflict in your mind. So I guess you get an opportunity to do it again and just do it right. And actually, you don't have to worry. It's not me. I mean, how relieving is this teaching? It's not really me doing it. Well, that's great. It takes all the pressure off then. I don't really have to worry about it. It's not me doing it. I just have to allow it. Just let go of my need to control and manage and manipulate and do all these things, and just allow whatever to happen through me. Isn't that a whole lot easier than stressing, straining, and striving as the ego wants you to do? So it's actually really easy, although it's hard for our egos because the ego wants to interfere constantly, doesn't it? But actually the simplicity of it is, okay, well, you're not doing it anymore, just step aside. And when you do that, and you let go of your own thoughts and ideas, then something else is going to come in, something else has to come in. And that something else is then the Spirit. So again, he's just saying, the way to do this is to forgive or to let go of your stuff as you become aware of it, whatever's coming up. And in that openness, you allow something else to come in. And you don't know exactly what that's going to look like and what it's going to tell you, but you just open and something will come in. Inevitably, you're not going to be left with no guidance. The ego's fears, well, if I don't do it, then how am I going to live my life? Something's got to guide me. I'm going to be lost and alone, and I think this is going to be a disaster. And that's just not true, because another voice will come in that space to fill the empty space of the vacuum that you've created for it. And that voice is the Holy Spirit. So the courage is just to let go and say, okay, I'm just going to trust. It's a bit scary, it's a bit unknown, but all right, I'm just going to trust that, yes, there will be a voice. I'm not going to be left alone. And actually, I will get the guidance as and when I need it. It'll just come. And, the more you do that, the more you trust, the more it will come. And the more you see, wow, this really works, actually. This works much better than if I try and control things and manage things. And the outcomes are miraculous by comparison. Okay.
It's like it's, if you can get that, I mean, it'll be amazing, but it's getting over that hurdle of that balance of not just leaving it and taking no action, still taking action, but yeah, it's quite something.
Yeah, well, it's a
Like
total
practicing.
reorganization of your mind. It is very profound, this. But there is a way of doing it. You can let go. If you can in every situation practice. So say you're in a work situation, I understand, stuff comes up, there's a crisis, Kim's got to act, something's got to be done, right? That's what's arising. That probably happens several times a day for you. So now in that situation, you have a choice. Okay, do you rush in? Kim, the little I, rushes in and tries to fix the problem. Or do you just take a little bit of time and you just step back, as he's saying in the lesson, and go, okay, so yes, Kim wants to do this and is feeling anxiety and wants to rush in and try and, from that place of anxiety, try and fix this and do what she does. But maybe I could just step back for a bit. It doesn't have to be long. It can be a few minutes, do a breath break. And just find a sense of calm and presence and stillness. And let go of all of that, thoughts and emotion. Any anxiety and thought, and just calm yourself and find that nice, still, calm, spacious awareness. And if you can find that state of mind, then you go, okay, so now I'm feeling pretty clear that anxiety is not really there, I'm open. Okay, so now let me look at this problem again. And from that clear state of mind, now what's coming? What should I do? And you'll almost certainly find that what you should do will be different from what you would have done 5 minutes earlier. If you can do this. Because something else, you've invited another presence in, you see. By just taking the time to step back and let him lead the way, you've invited another presence in. And it's calming and it's peaceful, and the thoughts and the emotions are very different. So your action is going to be different. Because thoughts and emotion create action. And so you're giving yourself just that time. It's creating the gap between stimulus and response. Create a little gap, create a pause, open it. And then see what happens in that space. And you will almost certainly see that the decisions you make and the actions you take are different because you created that space. And so that is the very practical way that you do this. I know it can seem to be too difficult to actually apply, but actually in practice, if a situation like that is arising, you can just take some time. You just need a bit of time. It's very, very seldom that you have to react straight away.
Yeah.
A few minutes.
I generally don't, but I think I'm still in that state of I step away, but I'm like, okay, what do I do? So
the thing is, have you really changed your state?
More calm, but I have to be more conscious about getting into that state. Sometimes it kind of, I can allow myself to give it time, and then I know when I get back to it, it's kind of a different reaction, or else I step away, but it's probably a place of ego where it's bit more fear that's coming up, or anger, or frustration. So I think it's being aware of those emotions and doing that part to let go of that emotion consciously to get into that state, rather than, okay, yes, I'm stepping away, but it's like an ego state rather than a okay, stepping away and letting go state.
So, and the easiest way to do that is use a breath break.
Yeah.
Only 5 minutes. I mean, anything from 4 to 6 minutes. Yeah. So the idea is, okay, that takes you in by doing some breathing, by listening to it, creating a little ritual around it. You're working from home, so you can put headphones on, get yourself comfortable, do whatever you need to do to just create a little space. A little ritual. So you go, okay, maybe I'll remove myself from my computer. I'm going to go somewhere else, sit in another room, do the breathing, listen, process, do the 5 minutes, like properly. So you switch everything else off, give yourself that time. Now you're giving yourself time to really step back. You're doing it properly. And then you come back into the situation. You go, okay, so then I come back, get yourself a cup of tea, sit down. All right, let's look at that, whatever it is. Let's look at the email, whatever the situation is, read it again. Be conscious to your breathing while you're doing it. I'm just breathing. I'm observing thoughts and emotion all the time. And now you've really given yourself that time to do it. Because otherwise, often it's like, I need to let this go, but I'm not really going to let it go. I'll step away, but the mind's still churning. Your mind's thinking about it, the emotions are still going. Okay, I'll make a cup of tea, but I'm still thinking about it. I haven't really taken a break.
Yeah.
See, that's
what happens.
So you've got to do this properly. If you're going to break, you've got to break. You've really got to know how to break it, because it breaks your state. Okay, so that's the idea of these breath breaks. Is it breaks the state. That's why he's giving us these lessons to do repeatedly through the day, because he knows you need to interrupt the pattern of the ego. You need to break your state. And if you can do that frequently in the day, you're already undoing the ego at the coalface. In your daily life, stuff happens, a challenge comes up, you're getting those negative emotions arising, and then you break it every time. You interrupt that pattern every time. That's like now meeting the ego in its domain and saying, no, you're not going to be in charge anymore. Even in the work situation, even in parent challenges and crises and whatever, when you normally, this is your field day, this is your domain, the ego's like, no, Holy Spirit, we don't want you here. Only I can deal with this, because I'm the one who gets things done for Kim. This is what it tells you. I'm the one who can handle the practical real world. I'm not into this airy-fairy stuff. Like, I'll get the work done, and it needs to be done, and you know that voice, don't you? Because it's tempting you. It's saying, no, come. So make an exception here, Kim, and let me take charge of this, because I know better. I'll do this better for you. Because I know how to deal with practical stuff, and this is the corporate world, and spirit doesn't really come in here. So no, I'm in charge. And of course, that is the way that now the ego is going to get you, isn't it? Because that's your weakness. It's going to get you time and again. It's going to say, no, just like all that spiritual stuff, it's fine in your private life. After hours, we'll let you get away with it. But in work, no, this is my domain. I'm in charge. And then, unfortunately, you listen. You're tempted to keep listening to that voice, because a part of you has always done it that way. And part of you is scared that if you really do let go, that somehow it's all going to fall apart. Isn't it? That's the anxiety.
Part of it,
if I go into spirit and I just let this go, I'm not going to get my work done.
I'm not going to answer. And I'm like, come on, spirit, I'm waiting. And it's like,
yeah, but have you really changed your state?
Yeah.
That's the key thing.
Yeah.
Have you really gone, all right, I'm really going to just open myself. I'm going to let go of this entirely. For that 5 minutes, I'm going to drop this entirely. And I'm just going to really go into the spirit, into this oneness. And I'm going to come out of the 5 minutes, and I'm going to look at it again from that clean slate, right? Tabula rasa, the clean slate that you've now created in your mind. And in that state, then you'll know what to do. Okay, so I'm looking at it, and now you've invited another intelligence to come in and look at that situation differently, from a different perspective, and will give you some different guidance. And obviously every situation is going to be different, but that guidance is generally going to be much more peaceful, much calmer. You might still need to act. Probably you do still need to act. And these situations don't just go away in the corporate world. You need to do something, but now what you do is different. You send an email, maybe you still send an email, but the email is different. The tone of the email is different. You speak to someone, but the tone of your conversation is different. So you're still acting, but now the Holy Spirit's guiding. And you will see, if you really do start to have this faith, you will see how it works, and it works much better than the ego. And you'll see actually the outcomes are better. It's all happening much smoother, and I'm feeling less anxious. I'm not having all of that anxiety and that negativity that goes along with my normal daily work day if the ego's in charge. So all in all, this is really much better. Why would I resist the Holy Spirit taking charge of my work life? It doesn't make sense to do that, because it's much more effective than the ego, and it's the results speak for themselves. But you've got to have the faith to do it, to get into that pattern and start getting those miracles that show you, yeah, actually this does work better. And it's not necessarily anything extraordinary. It's not like, oh wow, suddenly major miracle. And no, it might just be, okay, that situation just kind of resolved. It was fairly smooth. There wasn't really a lot of conflict. There could have been, but there wasn't conflict. And we managed to resolve it. Everyone seems to be happy. And okay, great. Yeah. Everyone was happy, and we got a good outcome. So you know, that'd be my you know, just channeling from the Spirit here. But I think that's what's going on for you, and it's like your next step in the spiritual path is to take this into your work life and say, okay, I'm going to do this all the time, and I'm going to take the time out properly, right? Because it's worth taking 5 minutes to really reset into a different state. And part of the ego is going to tell you, no, you can't afford this, you're too busy. But you absolutely must, because your state of mind now affects the way you deal with that situation. And if you're in the wrong state of mind and you respond or you react to that, then you create all kinds of complications. All kinds of difficulties can happen because you're in the wrong state of mind. And that wastes a lot of time. So it's the most effective way to manage your time, to manage your state. Go into the right state of mind, take the time to get in there, do the breath break. Okay, so I've taken 5 minutes, but that's really got me into the right state of mind to handle this. And that is the most effective way of managing your time. Get yourself, remember, your life is about managing your mental and emotional state, primarily, number one, priority. So if you're not going to take the time to do that, then you're not really making it your number one priority, are you?
Mm.
What you're actually prioritizing is the activity. Oh, no, I need to do something. Rather than the state that leads to the activity. And so taking the time, it's a mental discipline for sure. But
Yeah.
saying, okay, I need to just be disciplined here. Take the time out, Kim, go somewhere else, create a little ritual out of it, put your headphones on, listen, do the breath break, and really, really, really clear your mind. Give yourself that space. Now come back 10 minutes later and look at it again. And now you've really cleared your mind. You've got out of that pattern, that mental and emotional pattern. And that's going to make the difference, isn't it? It has to make a difference. And now you genuinely have. I think, you see, that you can't fudge this. You can't like, oh, I'm giving it to the Spirit, but actually I'm not really giving it to the Spirit. Okay, Holy Spirit, come on. But actually the underlying charge there is like, you still have anxiety. There's still anxiety. You want an answer because there's anxiety and I need to get this sorted. Come, give me the answer, please.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Well, I haven't quite, but yeah, I haven't I haven't shouted for the answer per se, but
No,
yeah,
it's
it kind of gets there, and it's also like I think about like what like. Unfortunately, yeah, I can see myself having some time pressure and then getting to that point. Speaking of which, the meditation that you shared this morning for today was the 20 minutes one where it was just open. It was really nice, and I felt like that 20 minutes went quite quickly. But maybe something like that as well, but a shorter one to just click into. Maybe, I don't know if 5 minutes might be too short, between 5 and 10 minutes. So it's a request now, but it was really nice because it just started and then it's like, okay, you let it go to him, and then you just ended it at the end. I was because I was wondering like if you're going to bring in some of the lesson in that later on, but yeah, like doing a shorter one like that also might just help to kind of go, okay, based on that lesson, stand aside. And then, yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to do for you, Kim, for everyone, but particularly for you,
Thank you.
this particular lesson, because it's a nice one, I will step back and let him lead the way. I'll record like 5 to 10 minutes with say a couple of minutes of silence in there. So just say, okay, so go, step back, let him lead the way, breathe, let it go, and then just have some space, just to like, okay,
Yeah.
quietness, so that you can listen to that anytime. These lessons can be used at any time. So if you find a difficult situation where you want to step in and take charge, then you listen to it, and that just kind of resets. Go, okay, so I'm just in that nice calm spacious awareness, and now whatever comes, there's an intelligence that is way beyond the ego, that can reinterpret everything that happens in this world, and can help you to take the right action, to say the right thing at the right time. And it's just, can't really understand it intellectually or rationally. How does that work? But it does. If you will just trust, if you have the faith to allow it. It's okay, I'm gonna step back and let you do it and show me. And I'm willing to surrender the outcome. It's not my way anymore. However that outcome looks. And so it's the faith that then opens you to this. To say, yes, I am willing to do it another way here. And the perceived risk, and he goes like, oh, no, that's going to be a disaster. That's not going to work. And it's going to tell you all those stories that it's going to be a disaster. And you just have to have the faith to say, no, it's really not going to be a disaster. The ego is the disaster, and the Holy Spirit really does know what it's doing. And it can handle anything. There's no situation in life that the Holy Spirit can't handle. Whatever it is, work, relationships, crises. In fact, the only teacher that is going to handle it correctly is the Holy Spirit. So yeah, I'll record that for you in the next couple of days and send it.
Thank you.
Everyone,
Thank you.
just place it on the group. But that could help you. So whatever tools that you need to just help you to do this, to get into this inspired state, really, and in daily life, that's really where he wants you to do this, not just as a theoretical concept. Because too often I think people, I'll step back and let him lead the way. Yeah, that's a lovely thought, and we can like read the lesson. Yeah, that really feels good. I'm feeling it, and then of course something happens in life, and then what do? We step to the front. Ego takes charge, and the lesson goes out the window, and actually we don't really apply it, and it's all just nice theoretical feel-good stuff for when I'm practicing my lesson. Of course, he's wanting you to bring it out of that theoretical domain and bring it into your daily life in every situation, and give every situation to the Holy Spirit. And then, the question is, well, how do you do that? Well, we just discussed in a situation where you're feeling challenged, take a time out, take a breath break, and really give yourself the time and the space to reset mentally and emotionally. That's really the key. So that you finish that, you go, yeah, I actually am feeling differently. So start observing your state before and your state afterwards. And if there's a genuine shift, if there hasn't really been a shift, then you actually haven't done it. You're still really in the same state. So you've only really done it when there's a state shift. And if you made it a discipline to say, okay, I'm only going to come back to this problem once I've really shifted my state. There's a discipline there, isn't it? Okay, well, if that takes longer, then all right, I need longer. Maybe I need to do a 20-minute meditation or whatever. But my priority is to change my mental and emotional state, number one. Once I've done that, then the doing comes from the being. Once I'm in the right state of mind, I'm being who I really am, then the doing will come. So now you're putting being as primary and the doing as secondary, which is how it should be. Rather than doing primary, I'm now a human doing, trying to fix all these problems, and the being slips behind that, which is kind of said here at the beginning, isn't it? We step back. When they find their own reality is even here, then they step back and let it lead the way. What are the choices really there's to make? To let illusions walk ahead of truth is madness, but to let illusion sink behind the truth and let the truth stand forth as what it is, it's merely sanity. So again, that can be taken just on a theoretical level. How do you actually apply that? But this is how you apply it. So in a situation like where you've got a difficult, challenging situation at work, you step back and you give yourself the time out and you take a break and you clear your mind. That's now letting the truth step forward and take charge of the situation and letting the illusion sink behind the truth. So that's practically how you would apply these lines. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure. This was kind of what we wanted to discuss today. So that really is how you let the Holy Spirit guide you out of the matrix. That was the title of today's session. How does it guide you out the matrix? Because you're in the matrix, you're working in it. It's like you're in the corporate world, you're in the matrix. Stuff's happening all the time. You've got all these pressures, the ego's got an agenda, there's time pressure, there's money pressure, etc., etc. How do you do it? Practically. And practically, it's to take the time out, step away, and use these lessons to reset your mental and emotional state. And I've given you the tool because you've got a breath break to do it, which through the breathing, and if you put headphones on and you create a little ritual out of it, that's going to help you. Step away, go to a different place. All of these things help to reset your state, which is why ritual can be useful. Because by doing it over and over, you're kind of resetting every time you do it. It's why in every spiritual practice and teaching, religions and so on, they use rituals because it changes state. And if you do it repeatedly, then just by doing the ritual, it starts changing the state. Okay, sit down, put my headphones on, sit in a certain chair in a certain way, and listen to the recording, and I'm breathing, and there's the same ritual that helps you to reset your state. And remember, you're building new circuitry in the mind-body mechanism. So it's like rewiring, to quote Joe Dispenza, you're rewiring your neural circuits. So that they're now going to fire in a different way, and it becomes now your new pattern. And you've just got to train yourself to do that, and you do it by practice. That's why it's called spiritual practice, over and over and over again. So that is how you do it, day by day, moment by moment. If you keep doing that and you're persistent in it, over days, weeks, months, years, you will see a profound shift. Because now in the ego's domain, you're bringing the Holy Spirit. You've got a tool now that allows you to really do this, to step back and let him lead the way. Because too often there's a disconnect between the theory, people going, oh, I love that, that's so amazing, and yet how do I actually practice that? And they don't know how to do it. And so then it doesn't really happen. It just remains a nice kind of theoretical idea, and they can quote it, and they're like, oh, that's so amazing, but actually I'm not really doing it. Which is, of course, where the ego wants to keep it, in the theoretical domain, not really applying it.
Mm.
So you now know, you have a practice, and it's just doing it. You just got to have the discipline in the moment to say, yes, okay, take a break now, just do it. Just do it, Kim. You know, your ego is tempting you to continue and do it in your stress state, but just take a break and do it. And if you get into that habit, then it starts after a few weeks, it becomes a default habit. And you're like, yeah, that's how I just do it now. And there's no resistance. Initially, there's going to be some resistance because it feels uncomfortable. It feels different to how you have been doing it. So any change is difficult only because we are comfortable, we're familiar with that pattern. And it's kind of hardwired into our circuitry. And now we've got to change it, and that feels uncomfortable and unfamiliar.
I think I've had, when I've been in that ego state, I've kind of reverted to the lesson for the day. But actually, often that isn't enough to shift the ego state. I think what I'm taking in myself actually is this importance to just take out those few minutes and actually consciously change the state. I think for me, just doing the lesson, it's it gives me a nice break, but it doesn't sufficiently shift.
Yeah, or just like an idea is one level. So just thinking of the idea and going, okay, well, I think of the idea, yeah, that can be helpful. But the power of this is, you know, in these breath breaks, you've got an idea, but you've also got breathing, right? You've got some audio. There's usually some music or sound or something. You can create a little surround sound experience with headphones. You can sit in a certain posture. So it gives you a whole experience. And that experience changes your state. Rather than just, oh, well, I'll just quickly think of the idea. Well, it's a start, but actually using all of those tools, which all are state changes, in combination is probably going to do the job. A lot better anyway than just going, okay, well, I'll just think of the lesson. So remember, the breath control is mind control, right? The two go hand in hand. When you learn to control your breath, you start learning to control your mind. You do them simultaneously. You're going, okay, now I'm doing some breath work, so I'm controlling my breath. At the same time, I'm bringing in the mind control because I'm thinking the thoughts and I'm consciously going through a process of, yes, I'm bringing the thought to mind, and then I'm bringing the ego's thoughts to mind, and I'm letting it go. And you're coordinating breath work, and mind training. And that's very powerful. That's why I've created the breath breaks as I have. Because now you've got these two modalities working together in harmony. It's got to be more powerful than just one of them on its own. So, you know, you have the tool every day to use the lesson in a different way that will give you a more profound experience of letting go. Well, ideally, you know, you want to take it to the ultimate. Ideally, do it every hour. This is what I'm saying. Stop, pause, take 5 minutes, do it. Okay, go back, work for the next 55 minutes or hour, and then do it, you see. So you get into this rhythm of, okay, I'm working, and then I'm taking a break, and I'm resting. And I'm working, my energy's on, I'm pulsing. Like, it's got to be more effective if you do that, surely. So try it. You know, you've got the tool. Just, okay, well, if I'm doing it every hour, 5 minutes every hour, the ego never has time to really build up a head of steam. I'm just, here we are, I'm just refreshing, going back, clearing my state, resetting myself. Okay, now I go again, now I can work again. So you actually are using the idea of pulsing your energy and then resting. Like they've studied top performers and they know how to go full on and then they rest and they recover and then they go full on again. So it's that flow of rest, recover, rest. And if you're doing that in your day, you're building in those little rests, surely you're going to be more effective. So you're not losing time, you're actually gaining time. You're going to be more effective and productive in your work time because you took the 5-minute rest. So that's really the idea. If you do that every hour, then just by default, you just reset it. And if you happen to get particularly stressed by anything, okay, well, I'll take my break now. You just get into the habit of it. The beauty of working from home as well is you can do it. There's no boss going, oh, no, you can't take 5 minutes time out now. The only boss is in your head, telling you, no, you can't do this, you don't have the time. But actually, if you change your state, you create more time. This is the idea. If you're in a really connected, powerful, positive state, surely that's going to create time because you're going to be more effective in what you do. Make less mistakes, fewer errors, just be more in flow. So in the time that you are working, you're much more effective. That's the idea. So try it. No, to do is try it tomorrow. It's okay, every hour I'll do it and just see what happens. The worst that happens, okay, it doesn't work, can't do it. All right, well, did it for one day, stop. But if you try and you just monitor your state and your performance, you might go, wow, that actually really worked pretty well. So why wouldn't I do that every day if it worked better? And then, you've now got a new pattern, a new habit. Just keep doing it and life changes. And then you are every hour stepping back and letting him lead the way every hour. You're just practicing that. Okay. So any comments or questions on that?
I think that's useful, John.
Yeah, well, it's about making this practical, isn't it? And like, how do you actually apply it from the theory to practice? It's really an important thing. Because otherwise it just becomes theoretical. Rather than like, this is actually something I can live and I can do this every day. Okay. So where are we? On number 6 now? I've lost track of where we were.
Yeah.
Number 6.
Illusion still appears to cling to you, that you may reach them. Yet it has stepped back, and it is not illusion that they hear you speak of, nor illusion that you bring their eyes to look on and their minds to grasp. Nor can the truth which walks ahead of you speak to them through illusions, for the road leads past illusion now, while on the way you call to them, that they may follow you.
Okay. So anything strike you there?
Well, I think he's saying that we look as though we're still in this world, in the world of illusion, so that people can still see us, I suppose, and hear us. But it's become less important, and we follow the way to truth, and they follow us because they can start to see the truth in us.
Hmm. Yeah, well summarized. So you still have the illusion going on. You still have the body and your form, identity, and all of that. Still appears to cling to you that you may reach them, but it has stepped back. Because in your mind you no longer believe it. It's not illusion that they hear you speak of. Or illusion that you bring their eyes to look on and their minds to grasp. Okay, should we move on to number 7?
All roads will lead to this one in the end. For sacrifice and deprivation are paths that lead nowhere. Choices for defeat and aims that will remain impossible. All this steps back as truly as truth comes forth in you, to lead your brothers from the way of death and set them on the way to happiness. Their suffering is but illusion, yet they need a guide to lead them out of it. They mistake illusion for the truth. So I think this is saying that, we all have a job to do in helping our brothers move out of illusion.
Hmm.
And that their suffering is also an illusion. But they need a guide to help them out of it.
Yeah. Mistake illusion for the truth.
And it's our job to step up to be the guide when it's appropriate.
Hmm. Yeah, so you become an example. And that doesn't mean you're preaching to people, but you carry the presence of God with you. And that will express in ways that are appropriate, that are helpful. You know, this is the prayer to be truly helpful in each situation. Okay, well, show me how to be truly helpful. And that's going to look different in every situation, but the Holy Spirit can guide you in every situation. So how you be truly helpful, and how you carry this presence, and you become the teacher of God because you carry the presence with you. You teach it by your presence, and your words and your actions, and everything's directed by that presence. Such is salvation's call, and nothing more. And ask that you accept the truth and let it go before you, lighting up the path of ransom from illusion. It is not a ransom with a price. There is no cost, but only gain. Illusion can but seem to hold in chains the Holy Son of God. It is but from illusions he is saved. As they step back, he finds himself again. Okay, so any questions or comments on that?
No, I think that one's straightforward, actually.
Mhm.
Yeah. As they step back, he finds himself again.
And there is no cost, but only gain.
Mm.
So this is the faith. Initially, the ego is going to tell you, no, this is going to be a disaster. It's going to be a great cost. You're going to lose everything you have, etc. To have the faith to realize, no, there really is no cost.
Mm.
So that's but only gain. I'm actually letting go of a thought system that's got great cost. Causes me to lose again, and sacrifice and loss are entrenched in it. And I'm letting that all go and going into infinity and eternity where there's only gain. And so as we step back from illusions, we are safe, because when there's no more illusions, we don't believe in illusions, then all that can be left is the truth. As I step back, he finds himself again. So we remember who we really are. Okay, any comments, questions on that? Let's go to number 9.
Walk safely now, yet carefully, because this path is new to you. And you may find that you are tempted still to walk ahead of truth and let illusions be your guide. Your holy brothers have been given to you to follow in your footsteps as you walk with certainty of purpose to the truth. It goes before you now. They may see something in which they can identify, something they understand to lead the way. So overall, like you were saying, Jono, it's leading by example. What I find interesting is the first sentence: walk safely now, yet carefully, because the path is new to you. Safely. Maybe the why is there because you might find that you're tempted still to walk ahead of truth and let illusions be your guide. I'm just wondering, like practically, when we say walk safely.
Walk safely now, yet carefully, because this path is new to you. Well, safely is saying that this road, the Holy Spirit's guidance, will make you safe. So you will be safe on this path. Walk safely now, and yet carefully. So you need to be vigilant. Care is this idea of vigilance, because this path is new to you. And so be aware, be vigilant for these temptations, still to walk ahead of truth and let illusions be your guide. That you might still be tempted to just let the ego take charge in a situation. You know, the ego comes to the fore, walks ahead of truth, and then the ego's in charge and it's guiding it. It's guiding you. So vigilance, while the path is new to you, is required. And just by practicing the lesson, doing a breath break frequently in the day, then you are having that vigilance. Saying, okay, I'm going to bring my mind back to the truth. In the breath break, there's always a letting go part. So any illusions coming up, any false thoughts and beliefs, I see those, I let them go. I restore my mind to the truth. So practicality of actually applying this is what's important. You have a way. You've got every day you're getting the recordings. Just listen to them. Using them in the day and changing your state moment by moment. Because then you like, if you're practicing a breath break every hour, for instance, you are being vigilant. Every hour you're saying, okay, I'm resetting my state. I'm being vigilant, I'm observing thoughts and emotions. If anything's come in, then in that breath break I get the chance to deal with it and let it go. He's talking about us being the leaders of our brothers. Whereas before you now, they may see something which they can identify, something they understand to lead the way. So they see this presence in you, and there seems to be like peace, happiness, and certainty and confidence. Then, because you're in a form, they can understand that you're a person seemingly, and they can follow you. Just the intangible spirit, they can't do that yet. So they need your example. Understand to lead the way.
Yes, at the journey's ending, there will be no gap, no distance between truth and you. And all illusions walking in the way you travelled will be gone from you as well, with nothing left to keep the truth apart from God's completion, holy as himself. Step back in faith and let truth lead the way. You know not where you go, but one who knows goes with you. Let him lead you with the rest.
Okay, anything stand out for you there?
Yes, the bit that says, let truth lead the way. You know not where you go, but one who knows goes with you. That's very comforting, isn't it?
You know not where you go. So we don't really know because we've forgotten, but the truth does know. The Holy Spirit does know. Let him lead you with the rest.
Yeah, we just have to trust, don't we?
Yeah. That's the faith. Step back in faith and let truth lead the way. He's recently in the text just talked about faith and faithlessness and giving the faith. Say yes, okay, I'm gonna trust this. I'm gonna trust this path, and I'm gonna give everything to this because I'm gonna trust that the Holy Spirit can guide me much better than the ego in every situation. And that's what's required, that willingness. So yes, okay, I'm gonna do this because that opens the way for an experience, which is the miracle to happen. It then shows you, yes, the faith is justified. Look, you've got the experience, you've got a good result, and then now you've got reinforcement. Faith leads to the miracle. Okay, if it happened once, then that strengthens your faith, so lets you make it easier to do it next time, which then leads to further miracles, and then becomes default. Like, well, why would I choose to do it any other way? I've seen so many times that my faith is justified with miracles that why would I choose to let my ego try and hijack this? So by your faith, you see the results, and the results. That's why it's called the Course in Miracles. Because the results, the miracles show you, they teach you that this thought system must be true, and that your faith is justified. Without the miracles, you wouldn't be able to do it, because you'd be doing things and there's no result. Like, well, obviously, there's no positive result from your change of mind, then you wouldn't continue with it, would you? The miracles are necessary as part of this correction process. Okay, any more questions on that? Should we go to number 11?
Yeah. When dreams are over, time has closed the door on all the things that pass, and miracles are purposeless. The Holy Son of God will make no journeys. There will be no wish to be illusion rather than the truth. And we step forth towards this as we progress along the way that truth points out to us. This is our final journey, which we make for everyone. We must not lose our way, for as truth goes before us, so it goes before our brothers who will follow us. So he's taking us, is telling us here that, you know, as we progress and follow miracles, they actually become purposeless. And you know, the Holy Son of God will make there are no more journeys to be made because the illusion is over. And we will no longer lose our way, and neither will our brothers who follow on from us.
Yeah, it's a nice thought.
Mm.
Pointing to the end of the dream, beyond time into eternity, and miracles and forgiveness and the idea of a journey don't exist there. You just are. You're not going anywhere. You just are that pure presence of love. The journey is over. The journey only happened because you separated yourself from that, and now you must make your journey back to love. So we walk to God. Pause and reflect on this. Could any way be holier or more deserving of your effort, your love, of your full intent? What could give you more than everything, or offer less and still content, the Holy Son of God? We walk to God. Truth that walks before us now is one with Him. It leads us to where He has always been. What way but this could be a path that you would choose instead? Okay, anyone like to summarize that?
Right, I think he's saying that, you know, this is the purpose of all our efforts, really, to reach this place where we are at one with God. You know, what could be more worthwhile?
So there's no other choice.
No.
Way but this could be a path that you would choose instead. The only other way is the ego's way, which leads you to death. The physical death, all of your hopes and your dreams gone. And then guess what? You're going to do it all over again. You have to come back. Have another life and have another go at it. The illusion. Why would you do that when you can have eternal truth? Oh, indeed. Okay, so number 13.
Jono, sorry, this that when I say walk to God. So, I mean, if you had to just be visual about it, you're walking to God, but Spirit is with you in that walk.
Yeah.
Okay.
So God is the final destination.
Yeah. Okay.
The Holy Spirit is the awareness of that final destination, which is oneness, perfect one. That awareness arises more and more in your mind as you walk to God.
Mm.
That starts to then become your guide. That awareness then interprets everything that you experience on the journey from its perspective. And so that takes you more and more closer to perfect oneness as you go, which perfect oneness is God. So your journey through life is a journey not just on the horizontal axis of time, but it's a journey on the vertical axis. You're going upwards to God. Each situation now becomes an opportunity to listen to the voice of God, this awareness of oneness, reinterpret it from that perspective, and every time you do that, you've come closer to oneness. Right? That process is that one that he talks about. The forgiveness or the letting go leads to that one. And ultimately, the final destination we call God. That's perfect oneness. That's an idea of perfect oneness, and there's no other idea. That's it. There's only perfect oneness. There's only that experience that remains in your mind for all eternity. That's it. Everything else has gone.
Okay. Your feet are safely set upon the road that leads the world to God. Look not to ways that seem to lead you elsewhere. Dreams are not a worthy guide for you who are God's son. Forget not, he has placed his hand in yours and given you your brothers in his trust, that you are worthy of his trust in you. He cannot be deceived. His trust has made your pathway certain and your goal secure. You will not fail your brothers or nor yourself. I think it's just around reassurance when I say your feet are safely set upon the road that leads the world to God. Like you're on the right path. I guess that's when you've sort of let go and spirit has taken over. Because you're not looking for places that lead you elsewhere. So I suppose, yeah, don't go back to illusion at this stage. And then also you're doing what you're doing, which is leading by example. And you cannot be deceived, meaning if you go back to illusion. But this is very sort of saying this is how it is, like you're not going to fail. I think that's if you've given over to spirit truly, then that's what it is. That's how I interpret this as well.
Yeah, once you're guided by the Holy Spirit, its job is to bring you back to perfect oneness. And that's where you're going. Feet are safely set upon the road that leads the world to God. So you let go of one way, the ego's way, and you open yourself up to the Holy Spirit. And once you're on the path, I mean, in my experience, it's impossible not to be on it. Like, well, how can you go back? Oh, well, I'll just retrace my steps. I'll pretend I haven't learned anything. And I'll just go back into the ego's thought system. How's that going to work? It's impossible. You can't. Because your mind knows too much. You're like, no, I can't believe that thought system anymore. So there's no going back. There's only forwards to God. Okay, so number 14, and then we'll go into a meditation.
Now he asks but that you think of him a while each day, that he may speak to you and tell you of his love, reminding you how great his trust, how limitless his love. In your name and his own, which are the same, we practice gladly with this thought today. I will step back and let him lead the way, for I would walk along the road to him.
Yeah. So, very nice last couple of lines. Okay, so any questions on that, or shall we just go into a meditation?
I think that's been very good. I'm happy with meditation.
Yeah. Okay. Does anyone need a break?
Yeah, just a quick break, John.
Okay. Let's have a little 2-minute break. See you in a couple of minutes.
I think that was a good lesson, actually. I've got the energy to do the text as well.
Okay. Okay, so back we are. So I can do I'll just do a meditation on the lesson, and then we can read the text, I think. So otherwise, it might be too long.
Yeah.
Everyone agreement with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So put you on mute. Okay, so just sitting comfortably, feet shoulder width apart, or standing, feet shoulder width apart, back straight. Cup your hands in your lap. Close your eyes. And then just start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Some flow of air in through the nostrils. Clenching the sphincter muscle, locking the energy in. And this warm wave of energy rising up. From the base of your spine, up into your heart center. Put one hand in your heart. Connecting with your heart space. Draw the energy all the way up into the crown of your head. Pausing at the top of the inhale. And just check in, scan your mind. So noticing any thoughts and emotions going on. Anything that feels negative, limiting, contracted, constricting in any way. Just observe those thoughts, observe the emotions, observe any physical sensations. Just breathe into them to create some space, some light, some awareness around them. Open your mind to the spirit. Just calm, empty, spacious awareness. And say to yourself, I will step back and let Him, the Holy Spirit, the voice for God, the voice for love, lead the way. And I will step back and let Him lead the way in this situation. Breathe in again. Just imagine that you're infusing every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind with the light of your true awareness. And as you step back and Him lead the way. I would walk along the road to Him. Walk to God. The Spirit, the voice for oneness, for love, guides you there. Focusly. So exhale on the truth of this. As you exhale, just imagine you breathing out any negativities, any darkness, any shadows, doubts. Ego is always trying to hijack you on the journey, to get you to take a detour that you don't need to take, to go off the path. And so all you have to do is let go of those thoughts and emotions that are not helpful. As you blowing them away like dark clouds, blown away by the breeze of your breath. Pull the lower stomach into the spine. Pull the last remaining air out. And find a sense of peace and rest. Bottom of the exhale. Just rest here for a few moments. And certainty that you're on the way to God. The path is certain, the guide is sure, and cannot fail. You will get to your destination, which is perfect oneness. It is inevitable. It's your feet are set on this path, and the Holy Spirit's guiding you. You start to see the truth more and more clearly. Gives you more faith and courage to just step back and let Him lead the way. So just do that now. So breathe nice, deep, slow, rhythmical breaths in and out through your nose. Observe this calm, relaxed pattern of breathing. Put all your attention on it to bring your mind into the present moment. So in the present moment, the Holy Spirit is there always. He is trying to take you into the past and the future. Hijack the present moment. Twisted into distorted mental and emotional forms based on past and future that don't really exist. So just watch your breath, observing the subtle sensations of the breath flowing in to the nostrils and the breath flowing out of the nostrils. And the stomach rising and the stomach falling. And sinking in deeper and deeper with each breath into a still, calm, surrendered state. Say once more, I will step back and let Him, the Holy Spirit, the voice for oneness, for God, for love, let Him lead the way. I would walk along the road to Him. Walk along the road to love. And just apply this in any situation in your life that might be troubling you. Personal life, relationships, your business life, job, career, business, whatever. Yourself that you will step back from trying to manage and control, manipulate these to get what you think you want. Let this presence of God, presence of oneness in the mind, interpret everything. That's what it means. Letting Him lead the way. Holy Spirit reinterprets all your experiences that you have on the dream in a way that is helpful, in a way that leads you onwards to God. And sink in, step back, and sink inwards to the truth of the self-experience of this truth. That is with you always and will guide you always in all ways. Just a few minutes of deep silence, just breathe, relax. Still observe your breath and surrender or let go of all mental activity. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Breathe, relax, be still. Step back and let this presence in you lead the way to oneness. The next few minutes of deep silence. And any thoughts arise seem to tempt you to once again take charge of the journey. To let illusions walk in front of truth. Just observe that. And laugh, know that it's just the ego. I'm terrified that it's being undone through this process. Holding on for dear life. Just blow them all away, these illusions. Ephemeral cloud patterns. Breathe them away with your breath. And clear the way for the spirit of love to shine through. From your awareness from the source, which is the light. Feel this presence streaming into your awareness freely. Take you deeper and deeper into itself. Give you a glimpse of where the journey ends. Nothing else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about, just please relax, be still. Surrender. It's a deep silence. Give everything over to this presence of the Holy Spirit. And let it maybe give you a little glimpse of the journey's end. The next 2 minutes of deep silence. And so gently coming back. This deep, limitless place. This talks about our greatest trust and how limitless his love is. And you have experience of that. Let's bring your awareness back now into the body, the senses in the world, and on the count of 3, you open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing the stomach rise, the chest rise, subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile. Okay, and scan your mind, notice any thoughts and emotions going on. Really anything that you notice is irrelevant in this context. So you can just safely let it go. Say, I will step back and let him lead the way. Let love lead the way. I'll walk along the road to him. Love. I'll step back and let love lead the way in this situation. Before I walk along the road, guide or love, and as you exhale from the truth of that, have a sense of just releasing any blocks. This whole course is about releasing blocks to the awareness of love's presence. Let's first become aware of those blocks and then choose to let them go. That's what we're doing right now. So, pull the lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. So rest here for few moments. Notice how the air's flowing out, chest and the stomach are sucked back in. Count of 2, notice the weight of your body now pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Listen what you're feeling, your hands touching. There's a subtle flow of air on your skin. Breathe some of that air in. Notice any smell on your nose as you do that. And notice what you're hearing. Any sounds in the surrounding environment. Observe them from this very still, calm, surrendered state, without judgment, without interpretation, and notice how peaceful your perception is when you do that. So, judgmental perception is the key to forgiveness. Don't judge, don't give a meaning to your sense perceptions, because they don't have a meaning in truth. And so on the count of 3, open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around the room. In this very calm, surrendered state, observe your state. It was useful to do that because it helps you anchor the state. It's called a neurolinguistic programming. So you start to make this your default state more and more. And notice that you're very calm and peaceful, that whatever you see, an underlying state of calm and peace is not really affected. You just look at a few things randomly, just for a few seconds at a time. Notice your state as you look at something, whatever the object is. Move on, look at something else. And then again at something else. Make no attempt to select anything or avoid anything. And just notice the underlying state. It doesn't matter what you look at. If you're doing exercise correctly, you will have the same experience, your underlying awareness, peace, love, if you like. It's still there and remains the same, irrespective of what you're seeing with the body's eyes or hearing, the body's ears, touching, tasting, feeling, and perceiving in any way. And so you're training your mind that actually only pure formless awareness is true. And nothing else is true, as Jesus said recently in one of the lessons, the truth is true and nothing else is true. So that brings us to the end of the meditation. Just try and stay in this nice, calm, connected state. Keep watching the breath to keep you anchored in the state. As we continue to the third part of the session, which is to read and discuss the text. Okay then, we're all back. Okay, so I have just sent that to you as a recording, Kim, as well. But I will make a shorter one. That's the second recording on the WhatsApp.
Oh, thank you.
So we run it as a 22-minute recording.
Yeah.
I'll do a shorter one. Okay, so chapter 19, section 2. This is on sin versus error.
I'm happy to start.
Very interesting contrast. So, a very important one.
it is essential that error be not confused with sin. And it is this distinction that makes salvation possible. For error can be corrected and the wrong made right, but sin, were it possible, would be irreversible. The belief in sin is necessarily based on the firm conviction that minds, not bodies, can attack. And thus the mind is guilty and will forever so remain unless a mind not part of it can give it absolution. Sin calls for punishment as error for correction. And the belief that punishment is correction is clearly insane. So here is drawing a clear distinction between error, which is a mistake that can be corrected and made good, with sin, which sticks forever and remains a permanent scar. Number 4 is interesting. The belief in sin is necessarily based on the firm conviction that minds, not bodies, can attack. Belief in sin is necessarily based on the firm conviction that minds, not bodies, can attack. And hence, the mind is guilty and will forever so remain.
Yeah, so the idea of sin damns our mind. We say, well, this isn't just a mistake, this is a permanent sin. My mind is forever damned.
Yeah.
To be separate from love, to be guilty for this terrible crime that it's committed, or crimes, because they become multiple. Whatever we think we've done. And of course, other people have done. We project the same thought system onto them.
Yes.
Yes. You're condemned.
Yes.
You cannot be forgiven. This isn't just an error, this is a permanent sin.
Yes, it would have to be connected to the mind, wouldn't it? Because if it were just the body, then that would fall away.
Yeah, well, the body does things, but the body does things in response to the mind's directions.
Yes.
So to make the idea of sin real and believable, the ego has to say, your mind is guilty. You, fundamentally, you are guilty. This is its message. You are guilty. You are condemned, therefore, to feel sinful and feel guilt and be condemned, to be punished for this forever. Forever. This is going to last forever. You can never be released from this. This is what sin is saying, which is a very depressing state of affairs, to say the least. You really realize what sin is. Sin calls for punishment as error for correction. If you think that sin is real and this has really been done, then punishment is the ego's natural response. You must be punished for the sin, although the punishment actually achieves nothing. It temporarily makes the ego feel a bit better by projecting its guilt onto someone or something else. Even if we self-punishing, still a projection then.
Yeah.
The self-concept, oh, I'm so bad, I'll whip myself, flagellate myself. And that temporarily seems to achieve some kind of expiation or atonement in the traditional sense. Oh, well, I've now punished myself, so I feel a bit better. Until, of course, the next round, because the sin is actually being confirmed by the punishment. All of which is insane. It doesn't make any sense, really.
Yeah. Just shows the desperation to get rid of the sin. Actually, I think if sin were removed, the ego would be massively reduced, wouldn't it?
Well, not just massively reduced, the ego would be gone. Sin is the foundation, as you'll go on to explain. Because sin is that original error, the tiny mad idea made real. I really have separated from God. I really have destroyed love. That's real, that's happened. And now I'm guilty for the sin. I'm guilty for that error forever. Which of course keeps the ego in business. It keeps time going. Because if I'm guilty, in time I seek expiation for my guilt. Now I try and relieve my guilt in time by in some way, by projection. By projecting my guilt onto others, I'm trying to make myself less guilty, but I still feel guilty. And of course, as long as I play that game of projecting guilt, I'm really saying the guilt is real. Therefore, the sin must be real. Therefore, the error must be real. The tiny mad idea must be real. Therefore, the ego must be real. Therefore, the ego really has replaced God. Love is destroyed, and all I'm left with is the separate self, in which I'm sinful, I'm guilty, I'm fearful of punishment. It seems to be just because I really have sinned. Therefore, I fear attack. And ultimately, I'm going to die. As an expression of the punishment, the wrath of God, I am going to die. And that's just how it is in the ego's thought system.
Yeah.
When you unpack it in that way, it's just insane. It doesn't make any sense to believe in that. But we have to make these errors conscious and see them as errors and not sins. This is the key concept he's trying to communicate in this section. Okay, everyone understand that?
Yeah.
Okay, number 2. Kim, do you want to read that for us?
Sin is not an error, for sin entails an arrogance which the idea of error lacks. To sin would be to violate reality and to succeed. Sin is the proclamation of the attack is real and guilt is justified. It assumes the Son of God is guilty and has thus succeeded in losing his innocence and making himself what God created not. Thus is creation seen as not eternal, and the will of God open to opposition and defeat. Sin is the grand illusion underlying the ego's grandiosity. For it, God himself is changed and rendered incomplete. Okay, so it's saying that it's like there is a mistake. Sin is kind of deliberate. It's got this arrogance about it, and it's violating or going against the reality, the truth, and it succeeds. So yeah, it's deliberate. It's got the grandiosity about it versus an error. It's deliberately going against what the alternative teaching is. Assumes the Son of God is guilty, meaning we're guilty.
So when it's saying sin entails an arrogance, I'm interested in that because we were talking about arrogance the other day, where all forms of ego activity, hatred, jealousy were seen as forms of arrogance.
Yeah, and sin's no exception.
No.
This idea of error lacks. It's arrogant because you're saying, I really have done it. I've pulled it off. I've destroyed God. Love is over. Love is gone. And I really have created a separate self, and that's permanent and it's real. And now I must suffer the consequences. And eternal love is destroyed forever. I mean, that is hugely arrogant. You've decided you've destroyed it. You've destroyed what's eternal. I mean, like, talk about arrogance. How can you do that if it's eternal? But the ego is not sane or logical. As he says, to sin would be to violate reality and to succeed. But you have actually really pulled this off. You really have violated reality. You've set up your own kingdom, and that kingdom is now permanent. The error has become a sin, it's real. Guilt is justified, and God is nowhere. And now all you have to comfort you is the illusions of the ego. Grand illusion underlying all the ego's grandiosity. So grandiosity is an attempt to cover your littleness with something grandiose in the world. Oh, well, you know, if I do something, if I achieve something, if I have something, I have a relationship, if I'm very special, if I make myself very special, then I feel better about myself. That's the ego's grandiosity, which is really just the underlain by sin, which says, well, actually, you are special, you have sinned, because now perfect love is no more. All that's left is the special self that you've raised on the foundation of sin. God is nowhere. Love is rendered incomplete. There is no love anymore, and all you have is your illusions to try and comfort you. And so we look outside of ourselves for comfort. And sin makes all of that real. It's quite an idea, really. It's like, wow, okay, that's a pretty hectic idea, really, that does all of that. Whereas the idea of error, somebody goes, okay, I made a mistake. Made a mistake, but it's just a mistake, so I can correct it. I don't have to keep making that mistake, and I can let it go. If it's a mistake, I'm not really guilty. You're not guilty for mistakes, but you are guilty for sins. And it's a subtle difference, but it's absolutely saying this difference is the difference between truth and illusion. How are you going to view error? Are you going to see it as an error, or are you going to make it real and permanent by believing in sin?
So when I commit an error, it's just a mistake, and if I were to commit a sin, it would be with me forever, because I would have denied the existence of God, gone against his will, and killed him off.
Yeah. And sin makes that real. If you still think the error is real and you're guilty for the error, that makes love unreal. Maintains the ego's identity. So it's a very, very key concept. You think, well, how simple, really? Like, why didn't I see this before? But it's because this is all hidden. As he goes on to explain, this is the ego's most cherished concept. Sin. Sin is its holy grail. Sin is what it worships in all of its thought systems. And so to question it is seen as heresy. Okay, can we move on to number 3?
Mm.
I think it's Sue's turn.
The Son of God can be mistaken. He can deceive himself. He can even turn the power of his mind against himself. But he cannot sin. There is nothing he can do that would really change his reality in any way, nor make him really guilty. That is what sin would do, for such is its purpose. Yet for all the wild insanity inherent in the whole idea of sin, it is impossible. For the wages of sin is death, and how can the immortal die?
Okay. Summarize that for us.
So he's saying that the Son of God can make a mistake, can make an error, but he can't sin.
No, because that would mean the error is permanent and real and cannot be undone, cannot be corrected. The wages of sin is death. Interesting, is used is rather than are. The wages of sin are death. The wages of sin is death.
Mm.
But isn't it a sin to do something against one of the 10 commandments? Are they not sins if we
Well, what's he telling you here, Sue?
sorry?
What is he telling you here? He's saying there is no sin.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you think you've done. Stealing, killing people, even the mass murderer, serial killer, killed hundreds of people. Still, he hasn't sinned.
Because
Well, you explain it. Because why?
well, I find it difficult to figure out why there is no sin.
Because it's just a mistake. It's a mistake, mistake. It's a mistake on reality. That's what it is. So you do something that's unconscious, call it unconscious, right? That's coming from the ego. It's not coming from love. You do something that is a mistake. You mistook reality. You mistook yourself for something that you're not. And so you did the unconscious thing, which could have had various consequences in this world. If you kill someone, that's called murder. That's a crime in this world. You deprive someone else of life. That's apparently the most serious sin, but there's many others. But they're all mistakes on your true identity. You don't know who you are when you're doing them. As Jesus said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. What he's really saying is you're just confused. You are in a mistake. Right? It's a mistaken thought system. It's a mistake about who you are. It's a mistake about reality. So that mistake isn't real. Because if it was real, then the mistake would be permanent. Then it really would have replaced God and heaven. But it's a mistake because truth is still true. That's why there's no sin. Does that make sense?
Well, I think I'm getting that sin is eternal and defines the person who's committed the so-called sin.
Yeah, that becomes their eternal identity. You are a sinner, you're evil, you're guilty, you deserve to be punished, you're condemned for hell, condemned to hell forever.
Yeah, and that's not true.
No. So sin is just not true, because true reality, the spirit, God, love, is still there in that person's mind.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what they've done, that awareness is still there, that truth is still there. So then how can sin be real? Then the mistake would have to be real and permanent, but it's not, because truth is still true. And their true reality still lies in their mind, and they can still access it if they choose to. By simply letting go of the belief in sin, saying, okay, well, it's all a mistake. I was really mistaken. I didn't know who I was. I was very confused, but okay, now I'm waking up to the truth finally. And when I wake up to the truth and I let my error go, then the truth is still with me. Now I'm still that presence, and it doesn't matter what I've done in the past, that presence is with me. It's not like God says, oh, well, you've done all these things in the past, so sorry, that's it for you. No truth for you ever. It's like you're just condemned to hell forever. I mean, that's not love at all.
No.
Love simply is, and love simply wants you to let go of your mistakes and become aware of it again, and allow that awareness of love to come into your mind again. And then sin simply disappears. It's like, well, that error was just an error, and I no longer need to repeat that error. I've seen, there's a better way. And so the past is over, the error's gone, and I don't need to repeat it. I don't need to think that thought, I don't need to feel that emotion, I don't need to repeat the action. It's gone. Whereas the ego wants you to hold on to the error, make it part of your core identity, and based on that error, say, well, this is it. I'm now a guilty sinner. I'm doomed to suffer and die. I'm being punished eternally. And my life is really just hell. But never mind, says the ego, I'll give you some grandiosity to try and make up for it. We'll try and make your dream of hell a little bit better. So we'll give you some temporary illusions to satisfy you, seemingly. So this is the desire for something in the world. But that's never going to fix, it's never going to take away this metaphysical problem of sin and guilt. Only the truth will take that away. And if you look at it, it's ridiculous. I mean, I had to sometimes go, I can't believe that this entire world is based on this ridiculous idea. But that is the truth. It's based on a ridiculous, tiny, mad idea that we believe because our minds have power, our belief has power. We then invented an entire alternate reality based on a ridiculous idea. And now this has become so entrenched in our minds and in our seeming reality that we've miscreated that it becomes very difficult to see beyond it. We need a teaching like this from a teacher who has gone beyond it to teach us that actually this is not true and there is this reality beyond it. And actually we can let go of this very easily. It's just a shift in our perception. Change the sin from the idea of something permanent and real to something that's impermanent and can just be corrected. You can let it go. I mean, is that so hard to do? Not really. It should be like straightforward. Okay, I can just let this go. But the ego is addicted to sin, so it has great resistance to this. As he tells us here, a major tenet in the ego's insane religion is that sin is not error but truth, and it is innocence that would deceive. Purity is seen as arrogance, and the acceptance of the self as sinful is perceived as holiness. And it is this doctrine that replaces the reality of the Son of God as his Father created him and willed that he be forever. But what is he saying then? This is the ego's religion. This is the ego's doctrine. And you see this in traditional religions.
Yeah.
Like take the Catholic Church. Kim, you might want to pay attention to this. The Catholic Church, what does it tell you? That sin is original sin. We are all sinners. We're born into sin.
To be baptized.
And you've got to keep trying to find expiation for your sin through this ritual of confession. But it doesn't matter. You're still going to be sinful. I mean, talk about an insane teacher. And yet, we see it in the world. This is the basis of one of the world's major religions. And as he says, if you question it, then you're seen as some kind of heretic to question the doctrine of eternal sin. Purity is seen as arrogance. So who are you to be so pure and holy? What, you think you're Jesus Christ himself? This is what people will say to you. And yet he said to us, but I am as you are. You are exactly as I am. And you will do these things that I've done and even greater things, even greater works. He said that. But somehow it's seen as arrogant if you claim that you are the Christ too. You are pure, you're innocent, you're holy. Oh, this is the height of arrogance. No, you're an evil sinner. It's just very twisted and very insane. This doctrine that replaces the reality of the Son of God as his Father created him and willed that he be forever. So this now creates an alternative thought system which replaces God and love. And then he says, is this humility, or is it rather an attempt to wrest creation away from truth and keep it separate? So again, the ego's confusion is profound. It thinks that this is humility. Oh, well, it's humble to think that I'm a sinner and that I'm not pure and holy and that I can never really be like Jesus. I'm just this miserable little sinner. Actually, this is arrogance. This is rather an attempt to wrest creation away from truth and keep it separate. Well, what could be more arrogant than that? I, in my little, my arrogant little self, think that I can somehow create a reality apart from the ultimate creator, God. I can create my own reality in which I'll do it my way, and I'll be sinful and guilty, and it's going to be a mess, but hey, it's my mess, so I like it. But I'll feel guilty for it, but then I'll try and compensate for the guilt by giving myself, illusions to pursue. And it doesn't make any sense. I mean, when you unpack the ego's thought system, it's crazy. This is what he's trying to get us to see. Okay, so any questions on number 4? No? So number 5?
Any attempt to reinterpret sin as error is always indefensible to the ego. The idea of sin is wholly sacrosanct to its thought system and quite unapproachable except with reverence and awe. It is the most holy concept in the ego system, lovely and powerful, wholly true, and necessarily protected with every defense at its disposal. For here lies its best defense, which all the others serve. Here is its armor, its protection, and the fundamental purpose of the special relationship in its interpretation. Number 4, for here lies its best defense, which all the others serve. Is that all the other defenses?
All the others serve this defense.
For here lies its best defense, which all the others serve.
So all of the defenses confirm that guilt and sin are real.
Ah, yes, okay. Yeah.
Let's say fear, that's another defense. Fear comes from the idea that you already have done something wrong and you're going to be punished. So what does fear serve? It serves sin and guilt. Attack, another defense. Okay, well, now you believe in the reality of attack. Well, why do you believe in attack? Because you believe that you already have committed this error. You already have attacked God, and now God's going to attack you. There's going to be this retribution for your sin. So it's all connected back to sin, the original error. Sin and guilt are the bedrock, and then all the other defenses spiral out from it. Right? You could have no fear without sin. You have no attack without sin. No guilt without sin. So all of those defenses then just perpetuate the sin and the guilt. And then he relates it again to the special relationship. It says, in your interpretation of the special relationship, you're going to see it, if you believe in sin, you're going to see it through those eyes. And you're going to still see that the other person is guilty. I'm not guilty, the other person's guilty. They must suffer, not me. So they will be crucified by God and not me if I blame them. This is the psychology of the ego. So the purpose of the special relationship is to offload your guilt onto someone else, so that you get off the hook and someone else is going to be punished. But that just makes the guilt real. It makes the guilt and the sin real, and that then permeates through the whole relationship. It makes it incredibly toxic and painful. Does that answer the question as to why?
Yeah, it's very powerful stuff.
Yeah, it might actually be worth bringing up this diagram just to remind. I don't know if you saw this again, Kim. I think you missed that session. There's that diagram on the descent into hell. It's quite powerful, and it's speaking directly to this. These sections of the text are where it comes from. And the diagram is taken from the teaching in the text.
Okay.
So he's saying, sin is at the top of the ladder of separation. Let me see if I can bring it up. But let's move on in the meantime. So number 5.
Okay.
You want to read?
Any attempt to reinterpret sin as error is always indefensible to the ego. The idea of sin is wholly sacrosanct to its thought system and quite unapproachable.
We just had this one.
Okay, but Jono said number 5.
You did, yeah.
Are we on number 5?
No, I think we're on
Number
6.
6. The
6.
bigger one.
Number
Okay.
6. Sorry.
Okay. It can indeed be said the ego made its world on sin. Only in such a world could everything be upside down. This is the strange illusion that makes the clouds of guilt seem heavy and impenetrable. Solidness that this world's foundation seems to have found in this. For sin has changed the creation from an idea of God, an ideal to an ideal that the ego wants, a world it rules, made up of bodies, mindless, incapable.
Sorry.
Okay.
Open this other one. Let's go back.
For sin has changed creation from an idea of God to an idea that ego wants, a world it rules, made up of bodies, mindless and capable of complete corruption and decay. If this is a mistake, it can be undone easily by truth. Any mistake can be corrected if truth be left to judge it. But if the mistake is given a status of truth, to what can it be brought? The holiness of sin is kept in place by just this strange device. As truth is inviolate and everything is brought to it for judgment. What as truth, it is inviolate and everything is brought to it for judgment. As a mistake, it must be brought to truth. It is impossible to have faith in sin, for sin is faithlessness. Yet it is possible to have faith that a mistake can be corrected.
Okay, so anything stand out for you in that paragraph? Or anything you're not sure about?
For sin has changed creation from an idea of God to an idea that ego wants. A world that rules made up of bodies, mindless, and capable of complete corruption and decay.
Yeah.
But if a mistake is given status of truth, to what can it be brought? The holiness of sin is kept in place by just a strange device. I'm not really sure.
What? Not sure what that means.
Well, just, I mean, I understand what they're saying is as if it's a mistake, it can be corrected, but it's.
Or if you make the mistake true, you say sin is now the truth. And this is a permanent truth. This is now the holy concept. This is true and it can never be questioned. Then the ego is entrenched. The ego then becomes the replacement for God. And so that's why sin is the most holy concept that the ego has invented. Because it makes certain that the error, the tiny mad idea of separation, will never be corrected. Ever. As long as you believe that sin is true. It might be worth having a little look at this diagram again. Just to remind you, this is just a visual representation of this the metaphysical teaching in the course of how this descent into hell happened. So the thought of separation is the tiny mad idea, right? And just an idea, well, what if there was something else other than this perfect oneness? Another idea pops into the mind. That seems to create now another identity, which we can call the ego, the universal mind, or Satan. And that tiny mad idea, believed, now is the basis for all of this. So that tiny mad idea is what we call original sin. All right? And if you make that idea real, you now create a separate identity named. Okay, so you name this and you make it real and permanent, and now this seems to have a reality. This self seems to have replaced this one permanently in your awareness. So now I'm an individual, separate self, and I've experienced the guilt for this apparent sin of destroying oneness, because the only way I can have a separate self is to destroy oneness, or God, or love. How can I be separate unless this idea of oneness is no longer? Because oneness contradicts separation. So underpinning the sin is the guilt, and then we have fear, because it's a false expectation of punishment for this imagined sin that appears real, punished by a fearful, wrathful, vengeful God, who's apparently now outside of us. So now we have fear set up in our mind, And all of this guilt and sin and fear is overwhelming for the mind, so it seeks to run away, creates an alternate reality by this mechanism of projection, projecting all these insane thoughts outwards into what's we call the physical universe, which, because it's based on the idea of separation and sin and guilt and fear and attack, now in this universe you seemingly have all these forms, separate forms of matter and energy populate the universe, and they are continuously engaged in guilt, fear, and attack, because that's the foundation of their existence. And they're trying to project the guilt onto someone else, someone or something else, in order to get off the hook themselves. So you now have accusation, blame, and attack of God, of other humans, and other forms as a projection of subconscious guilt to try and get rid of it. Because we don't want to fade, we want our identity, our separate identity, but we don't want the guilt. So the ego invents a mechanism to project guilt, that it calls that blame and attack. And we now get caught up in this really dysfunctional, dark thought system of guilt, fear, and attack, which puts us into this helpless, enervated state, living a helpless, enervated little life, which is hell, limitation, and suffering before our bodies die. And it all came from the tiny, mad idea that I can be separate from God or love, and sin entrenches that idea. Sin then becomes the bedrock of that idea, because sin says that idea is permanent and real and cannot be undone. And that's why it's the most holy concept in the ego's thought system. Does that make sense? So a little, whirlwind review of that. But you can see where this all comes from now. It's all in the course. We did a section the other day where, you can see very clearly he's teaching this. It's just a visual representation to help you understand what he's teaching in the text. And to understand why then sin is so holy in the ego's thought system. Because it makes this real. So it underpins the separate identity that then entrenches all of this. If you are separate, then all of this must happen, the world is real, and you continue playing this insane game. Really going nowhere. The ego is telling you you're going somewhere, but actually you're just going to death. You're going to experience a lot of limitation and suffering, and then you're going to die, and the ego says this is all somehow meaningful. And the Holy Spirit looks on all of this and says, no, this is just insane. And fortunately, it's all just an error. You made one error. One tiny error of thought, which is the thought of separation. And, that's behind all of this. So that thought can be looked at and let go of, can be corrected. Simple. Although, the practice of it isn't easy in this world, because we've got so deeply entrenched down here. These beliefs are so fixed that we really are an individual person. We do have a body. We're living in this body. We are going to die. There's all this limitation and lack and suffering that we're dealing with. And that these ideas have become very fixed in our mind. And now Jesus is asking us to question all of these things. And question the core idea behind them all, which is sin. And say, no, this is just an error. Okay, so any questions on this paragraph? Any further comments? So as long as everything is brought to it for its judgment. So as long as you believe in the ego, you bring everything to this separate self. And the ego judges everything through this lens. It says, well, something's happened. Oh, that means the sin must be real. Confirms it in its mind. And then it seeks to deal with it within this thought system, which is to project the guilt outwards onto someone or something else. So now we blame and we attack in order to try and project the guilt. And so it takes us into a lot of unconscious, very hurtful behavior if we believe in sin. If we're willing to question it and just let it go, then none of this behavior is justified. You see that?
Yeah.
So although it's like you think, well, could it make such a difference? It does make a profound difference. The idea of sin will take you in completely opposite directions, whether you believe it or whether you just see it as an error. Those are now two divergent thought systems, and the Holy Spirit is simply saying, well, at every point in this dark dream of separation that you've invented, you can still see the truth that sin is not real and the tiny mad idea of separation is not real. And so at every point, you can just correct your mind and you can take it back to oneness. And that helps you climb the ladder of separation, experience by experience, back to God. And that process is that oneness. Okay, so number 7.
There is no stone in all the ego's embattled citadel that is more heavily defended than the idea that sin is real, the natural expression of what the Son of God has made himself to be and what he is. For the ego, this is no mistake, for this is its reality. This is the truth from which escape will always be impossible. This is his past, his present, and his future. For he has somehow managed to corrupt his father and change his mind completely. Mourn, then, the death of God, whom sin has killed. And this would be the ego's wish, which in its madness it believes it has accomplished. So he's saying here that the ego is totally attached to sin. It's the truth for the ego. And he thinks sin has killed God.
When he puts it like this, you just go, oh my God, it is totally insane. So why would I believe in any of this thought system when it's based on totally insane idea? In which there's no hope. If you believe this, there's no hope at all. Life is just a desperate, miserable punishment in the ego's conception. Punishment for your sin, which is why you suffer and you die. And then it's not over, because then it invents the idea of hell beyond this. And of course you come back to another life, suffer and die again and again and again. Until you're willing to question this idea of sin. Say, no, this isn't true. And you think, could all of this, the entire world of illusion, seems to be so real, could all of this be based on just this tiny mad idea of sin? And that's what he's saying. He's saying, yes, it's all based on that. You must see it differently. Otherwise, you will just remain in it. There's no escape. Okay, so any questions on number 7 or comments?
I think it's clear, actually.
Oh, I mean, it's been very clear. You can't say Jesus isn't clear in his teaching. I mean, it's as clear as day. It's just will you accept it or not?
Yeah.
No ambiguity, there's no equivocation, there's no like, well, does he mean this or does he mean that? Every now and then you have a little like subtlety that we're like not sure of, but the key message is so clear. And he expresses himself so eloquently and so clearly, you can't doubt them, you can't not know what he's saying. Just, well, will you accept it or not? So one of the defenses then is people just don't read it. Oh well, if I don't read it, then I won't know the truth. Well, I'll go to sleep when I'm reading it, because it's so clear. So would you not rather that all this be nothing more than a mistake, entirely correctable, and so easily escaped from that its whole correction is like waking through a mist into the sun? For that is all it is. Perhaps you would be tempted to agree with the ego that it is far better to be sinful than mistaken. Yet think you carefully before you allow yourself to make this choice. Approach it not lightly, for it is the choice of hell or heaven. Okay, so someone like to summarize the last paragraph?
I think it's a summary of the whole thing, really. It's you know, for goodness sake, realize that sin does not exist, and all possible sins are just mistakes. And let go of this idea of sin. I go around, walk into the mist, walk from the mist into the sun.
Yeah, it's so simple. You're going like, is that it? This is all I have to do is just accept that it's a mistake. It can be corrected. And that's, the ego's done. That's it, over and done. It's a mistake. You're saying approach this choice not lightly. The idea that it's, the choice between it being a mistake and a sin, because it is the choice of hell or heaven. So it's, such a simple idea makes a massive difference. Okay, so any other questions on that paragraph or the whole section, or the descent into hell?
Yeah, I think Kim's done really well to stay with us.
Yeah,
Really.
it's good, Kim, because you're kind of in that alpha state, so it's like really going in. You're gonna program your subconscious big time. Anyway, I think let's call it a night, shall we? Let's just do a 1 minute closing. It's a nice way to end the session. So let's close your eyes. Make yourself comfortable. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose, and just inviting the Holy Spirit in. Step back and let him lead the way. So feel this presence of love, which has guided us through the session. And feel the gratitude for that it's always there. It's never not with you. It's never not been with you. Just waiting for your invitation to allow it to enter your awareness again and to guide you in all of your thoughts, your words, and your actions. So breathe this all in. Imagine you breathing it into every pore of your body, every cell, every muscle. Infusing yourself with this loving essence. Feeling the gratitude for it. Anchoring this state in. So this love and this gratitude is going to carry you through the rest of your week. Guide you moment by moment, day by day, in the way of true holiness, to let go of all your errors and mistakes and find love and peace and the joy that are your divine birthright. So it is said, So it is done, and obviously you're going to share this with others along the way. So you become an inspiration, teacher of God to others. So as you exhale, have a sense of extending this light to everyone you know. So that's family, friends, work, colleagues, social network, acquaintances, and so on. And I just feel that this love is going with you. It's going to bless everyone and everything that you come into contact. Everyone you touch with your presence. Again, say, so it is said, so it is done. And that should set you up for a very holy and guided and surrendered week ahead. And so on that note, brings us to the end of the session. Thank you everyone for joining tonight, and Kim, thank you for staying till the end. It's 12:15 now.
Yeah.
So you did really well. I'm happy to do it in the day, obviously, but I did it this evening because this
No,
week
no.
everyone. So
Thank you.
we can do it in the afternoons. In which case, we'll be then finishing around 5 o'clock or so, which isn't too bad. So next week we can change it if you like, but the main thing is we did it, and hopefully, it's another step on the path of undoing this pesky ego and surrendering to the spirit. So I hope it's helped you do that.
Mm.
And I'll see you in the week, I hope. Sue and John tomorrow afternoon, same time.
Yep.
Kim, maybe see you in the week sometime if you can make it.
Yeah, maybe, Jono. This was a
No
chapter
pressure.
again.
Yeah, no pressure. Go in if you can.
Yeah, I think the week after that will be a little bit more stabilized. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Namaste. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Have a good
Good night.
you, Kim.
night.
Thanks. Bye.
You came.